welcome to the Not Your Average Knits podcast. I am Kim. You can find me on Instagram as Not Your Average Knits. We have a Ravelry group called Not Your Average Knits. My username on Ravelry is kbridgeo. I want to say happy 4th of July to everyone. Hope you're all out celebrating and having a good time with friends and family. It is also my 10th episode. This is episode 10, so happy 10th episode to me, to you, to all of us. Can't believe I'm already at 10 episodes. It's kind of crazy. I've been doing this for a little over 3 months, and it's been so much fun. It kind of feels like forever, but at the same time still feels really new. So thank you all who are returning viewers and continue to kind of stick with me and keep coming back for more. And welcome to everyone who's new. If this is the first time that you're watching, thank you for checking me out. So one of the things that's happening right now that I want to just remind everybody about is the Game of Thrones knit along. So I had said from the beginning that we're going to do a couple different prizes at different points in time. So next Sunday, next Sunday, the 16th is the premiere, the Game of Thrones premiere. So I do want to pull a prize on the episode that I do next week prior to the premiere. So I decided, so next Friday by 6 p.m. Eastern time, so I'm going to look at the finished objects thread at that point in time and randomly pick a winner. So if you're working on any other projects right now for that knit along and you want to be eligible for the first set of prizes, make sure you're done by Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern. So I'm not going to lock the thread because obviously we're going to continue on and do more prizes after the Game of Thrones finale at the end of August. But just to let you know, I need to have everything in by that time to be eligible for the first batch of prizes. So I'm super excited about that. We already have a few finished objects. You will see mine coming up pretty soon. But it's been really fun. It's been cool to kind of see what everyone's working on. And I know there's a lot of yarn dyers and bag makers and lots of people out there who are getting excited for Game of Thrones and creating some themed yarn and themed bags and themed stitch markers and things like that. So that's been super exciting to see. I'm really looking forward to this season. Totally feel like I need to watch last season again, probably this weekend, to remind myself of all the craziness. Anyway, so all of the information is on the Not Your Average Knits Ravelry group. We have a chatter thread and a finished objects thread. So all of the information is in there. So go and check that out. Okay, so what have I done in the last couple weeks? So the first thing that I finished is the secret test knit, which I can't show you yet, unfortunately, but that had a short turnaround time. So that was my priority for the last couple weeks. And I'm really happy with how it came out. So I definitely can't wait to show you guys. One thing that I did want to talk about, which it sort of reminded me as I was working on this project, is a little bit about kind of gauge and blocking. So truth be told, I am not one that typically makes gauge swatches. Usually for items where size doesn't really matter, I don't worry about it too much. I know that I can either block it bigger, or if I have extra yarn, I can make it larger, kind of whatever I need to do if the size doesn't exactly work out. So I don't typically do a gauge swatch. So for this test knit that I was working on, as I was using the needle size that was called for, even though I was using weight that was a little bit heavier. And I felt like the fabric that it was making was a little bit too tight. Came really close to frogging it and going up a needle size, but I decided at that point to just stick with it and see what happens. And it blocked beautifully and perfect and came out the exact sort of size and kind of drape of the fabric that I would want. So I was super happy about that. And I think maybe not every yarn would work that way. This yarn for this project I was using was Metal and Tosh Sport. And I don't know, it just really makes, I tend to be one that because I don't do a gauge swatch and I tend to be a tight knitter, I'll usually either stick with the needle size that's in the pattern, or if I don't have that size available or whatever, I'll go up a needle size. But then there have been projects that I've made where after blocking, the fabric is a lot more stretched out and sort of loose than I would have maybe wanted it to be or preferred it to be. So I do have to kind of keep reminding myself that it's okay to either, go down a needle size or use the needle size in the project, even if when you're knitting it, it feels a little bit tight, because blocking is an amazing thing. Like when I first started knitting and I used mostly acrylic yarn or regular wool, like not merino wool, I didn't even really know what blocking was. I didn't have any mats or pins or any of that stuff. And I was just kind of learning to knit and playing around with some patterns, and it didn't really matter. And I think the first couple things I blocked, it's amazing how much it sort of transforms the finished product. And there might be times where maybe after you knit it, you like the way it feels and the way it looks after, and it's fine not to block it. But I think if you, I don't know, for certain kind of stitch patterns, it's just sometimes amazing to see what blocking does, and just the way sometimes yarn just feels a little bit rough maybe in the beginning, and blocking it just absolutely does wonders. So anyway, so with the secret test knit that I worked on, those were two things that I was super happy about. It was just that after blocking, both the feel of the material and sort of the denseness of the fabric ended up turning out perfectly. So super happy about that. Anyway, so I will show you that when I'm able to. But that was the big thing that I've done over the past couple weeks. And then the other is my new design, Game of Thrones inspired, which you guys have seen a little bit, and I finally finished it. So I did decide to go with the name Who Wears the Crown, just because that's sort of, I think, what this finale is going to be all about. King of the North and who gets to run all the kingdoms. Okay, so you ready for it? I'm so excited about this. I love it. Absolutely love how it came out. Do I need to pose with it? So I want to talk a little bit about the design process. So what was fun for me when I decided to start this podcast, I knew that it would be fun to sort of show you guys a little bit of a design idea kind of from beginning to end in my kind of crazy process. This was one that was super interesting because I was totally inspired by the yarn. So the main color in this, it's not showing quite as pretty on screen as it is close up. So I've talked about this yarn before. So this is from Wool Fiend, and it's called Highgarden. And it's in her gorgeous MCN merino cashmere nylon base. And the colors in it, it's a very sort of peachy champagne base, and then just has just tons of splotches of like maroon and blue and pink and a little bit of red, and super, super pretty color. I loved that it was a Game of Thrones theme, so I knew I wanted to design something with it for this knit along. And then kind of went searching for minis to go with it because it's only 400 yards, and I knew that I wanted to make this type of crescent shape where it's, let me just show you the ends. So where the ends are super tiny, and then obviously it ends up being crescent shaped in the middle. And that was really all I knew. So knowing that I only had 400 yards of that yarn, I went stash diving and found these three minis, which are from Leading Men Fiber Arts. The blue is Dames at Sea. I think the middle one is Gothic Queen, and the darker red is Eternal Kiss, I think. It's all on my projects page. So anyway, so I mean, I bought a kit of 5 minis. And this too, where I talk about, like, whenever I show you what I've got, I'm always like, I don't know what it'll be. I just liked it. I don't know what it'll be. The same thing with these minis. Like, they had put it on their Instagram. There were 5 of them. There's a light blue and another kind of brighter pink. And I just loved all the colors. I like sort of blues, pinks, purples, that sort of the deeper kind of colors. And I just bought it, had no idea what it would be, just sort of grabbed those minis. And so it was awesome to get the Wool Fiend yarn and to see all of those splotches of color and then just see those minis and know that it would work. So, it's those kinds of things that I like, getting inspired by the yarn that I stash. So again, for this one, I had no idea. Some of my designs, I usually kind of have an idea of what I want to do. I think I've said in earlier episodes that I'll, make notes of either shapes or stitch patterns or, things like that I want to try. And then I'll just, when I eventually find a yarn I want to design something with, I'll just kind of see what works. This one, I literally had no idea. I mean, I cast on for this shape, and then I truly made it up as I went along, which was kind of fun. It was a different experience. Now, remember, I had started something and frogged it and started over. So, I was okay with that. I wanted for it to be something that I was happy with. And yeah, I just kind of went as I went along. And so and another thing too, I'm so babbling today, was that I wanted to use up as much of this yarn as possible. So I had 400 yards of the main color, and then the minis were 20 gram, 93 yard minis. So as I was going, I was weighing every single yarn after I was done, pretty much every couple rows, and making notes of it just to make sure that I knew that I could either go down and back or even though I was increasing stitches, I had to just kind of make sure I had enough. And I did want to maximize as much yarn as possible. So, I mean, I have a couple grams left of each of the 3 minis and the main color. So it definitely is tight. So when I do release this pattern, also I'll talk a little bit about that. So that will be next week. I'm going to release it probably on Friday. I have some people that are test knitting, kind of preview knitting it right now. So I just want to make sure that they don't encounter anything, sort of tragic in the beginning, but I think it's going so far. Anyway, so that will be next week. I will announce it on Instagram, and I'll also post it in my Ravelry group as well, so that if you guys want to get your hands on it. Anyway, so I do want to show you the end because I super love the edging. So I think last time when I showed, I was maybe through, I think, a few of these stripes. So I sort of alternated and mirrored the 3 contrast colors and the main color. And then this main color section I repeated down here, which is just kind of like a broken rib. And then the end, like I said, I just had a little bit of yarn left. And what I did was actually increase a lot of stitches. So that way the bind off, I did just a regular bind off. I'm not a huge fan of like stretchy bind offs and stuff, so I wanted to just do a regular cast off. So by increasing a lot of stitches and then doing the cast off, it makes a much looser cast off. And so much so in this case that when I blocked it, I actually blocked with points. It's not something you have to do. There's definitely, enough of a bind off that you don't have to do the points. But I just kind of liked it. I thought it was sort of fun. I'll put some pictures that I took of the shawl, but I love it. I'm so super happy with it. Definitely one of my most favorite things I've made. I've never made this type of shawl. I think I've mostly done scarves and cowls. I don't know that I've ever published, at least. I've done a couple that I haven't published, but so yeah, so I'm super excited. Anyway, so again, that will be published next week. And Game of Thrones, who wears the crown? Okay, so what else am I doing? So now that those 2 things are done, the other things, I've made a little bit of progress, not a lot. This is the Lenny K by Isabel Kramer. So last week I was just here, so I've only really done about an inch, but you can see how pretty that cable pattern is. So it's just a nice kind of garter section or a seed stitch section in here, and then just kind of these pretty cables. Yeah, it's really pretty. So this is a triangular shawl. And this part is both charted and written, which is nice. So I usually use the charts, but sometimes, like this one, I hadn't come back to it in a while because I was working on those other 2 projects, and I got a little, I'm like, wait, what am I doing? And so to be able to kind of look at the written directions and compare to the chart then kind of reminded me, so that's nice. Anyway, so really liking this. Obviously now that this was sort of my take a long project because so much of it was stockinette for a while. But now that I'm in the charted piece where I really need to, sun just came out, where I really need to pay attention, it isn't so much kind of a carry along project anymore. But anyway, that's where I am. Then my other, what I'm doing is the Free Your Fade shawl by Andrea M. So these are the ones where I'm using my lovely Woolen Boon yarn in the Woodland, Ever, and Heartland colorways. This is her Boon Classic. I did also just sign up for, Sonia at Woolen Boon is doing another 3-month yarn club. Tried to resist, but kind of couldn't because I don't typically like surprises, as a lot of you know. But again, comfort zone, jumping out of my comfort zone. So anyway, so let's see. Last time I think I had just started, so where the progress keeper is where I was last episode. So I've done a pretty good amount. This is one that is a little bit easier to kind of sort of mindless. So if I'm watching TV, I'll usually grab this one. So it's kind of an asymmetric shawl. Started with the Woodland color and then into Ever, which is pretty solid green with sort of specks of color. And then this variegated one is Heartland. And it's pretty cool. Like and I sort of sensed this when I put the skeins together initially when I was trying to figure out which 3 to use. Like there is so much of this green in the variegation that like it almost looks like I'm still fading it, and I'm not. Like, I mean, the fade part was really only these few rows, and then all of this through these 2, this stripe, the eyelet, the stripe, this eyelet is all Heartland. So it's kind of cool that it, it really does go well with this color. So then I think, as I said last time, normally you would end with this color, but I'm gonna put some more of this one back on top, just for fun, and because I want all the colors to hang out with the other colors. So I really like this. It's, like I said, it's fun and it's pretty easy. I didn't do any of the other kind of fade patterns, so I'm excited to be doing this one. So I don't have too much more to go. I think there's, maybe I've done maybe half of the Heartland section. I have another half to do, and then I haven't quite decided how I'm going to use the Woodland color again. I don't know if I'll just do a small section or if I'll do a whole nother huge repeat, because I do have enough yarn probably to do a significant amount. So I don't know. We'll figure that out. Hopefully, this is pretty much, I think, these 2 projects are the things I'll be working on over the next 10 days until I podcast again. So hopefully I'll have made very significant progress on both. And this is in my, which I can't talk enough about, is the Mr. Indigo's bags. I actually just ordered another one, so Indigo Amy, Inked Indigo. She also dyes yarn, Indigo Color Co. And she offered some kits with both a bag and then yarn dyed to match the bag. So she had a few bags in stock, so I just told her, like, pick one, whichever one kind of inspires you for yarn, because I do love these bags with the magnets, and they're just super soft and cozy. So happy to get a skein of her yarn and a bag, so that will be coming eventually. That's it for what I'm doing. Before I started, I was trying to think if I had really any other whips that I'm working on, but I'm not. Although I will show you. So I guess I'm jumping ahead a little bit to what's next, I suppose. So there's, of course, tons of things that I want to make, and I've showed you a bunch of them in past episodes that I haven't cast on yet, and I still need to. But like I said, I sell stuff at a craft fair at my niece's high school in the fall, and I don't have a lot of inventory right now. Usually I have a lot more, but I think because I've sort of been doing my own designs and test knits and sort of larger projects, I really haven't been doing kind of small saleable type items. So I need to kind of get some of that done. Just sort of more basic scarves and heavier weight items. I might do some hats and arm warmers and kind of quicker projects, even though I'm not as huge of a fan of knitting those. It's definitely a way to just kind of get some basic things done to be able to sell, because it really is a great fundraiser for my niece's school. They make a lot of money for the music program, so I like to definitely participate and support them. Anyway, so I need to make some stuff to sell. So the past couple of years, one of the, I guess, hot items that I've done has been entrelac wraps and cowls. And I think I've talked about entrelac before, just as a general sort of, if you're scared of it, don't be scared of it, you can do it kind of project. I was super intimidated for a really long time. And then once you I think it's sort of like brioche in a way where once you sort of get the rhythm of it, maybe the next time you make something, you have to, like, even right now, I'm going to have to go back to the directions and remember how many to cast on and how the first row is different than subsequent rows, and because it's been a while since I've knit an entrelac scarf, but it's worth it. It's totally worth it. So I'll put some pictures of some of the finished items that I've done in entrelac so you can see how gorgeous they look. So my next project is going to be another entrelac. I shouldn't say my next project. One of the things coming next. But I did actually skein yarn. So this yarn is Brook Farms. So I was first introduced to their yarn through Yarnbox, and I may have talked about it before. I apologize if I have, but and the yarn that they had in a month, I think prior to when I was a member, so is a base that she has called Entropy, and the one that she had was Blueface Leicester wool, 100% BFL, and I think it was sport weight. But it's all, I don't know if it's hand spun, I assume it is, but it's just gorgeous. And so that's when I had used for a lot of the other entrelac scarves that I'd made, because it just makes beautiful color changes. I'd actually also used her yarn. The very first project I did was the Boneyard shawl by Stephen West, which is a great, that was, I think, the first triangle shawl that I ever did. So for anyone looking for sort of a basic triangle shawl, if you've never done one, that's a great one to start with. I think it's free too. So I'll put a picture there. So it was fun to do that one in Brook Farms too, because of the gradation and color with the hand spun is really, really pretty. Maybe I might make one of those. Anyway, so I've been like hoarding Brook Farm yarn whenever I can get my hands on it. So I do have a lot in my stash. And then recently in another yarn box, they featured her yarn again. This time it's her milk and honey base. So I think it's got merino wool in it, I think, and something else, but then like a milk protein, which is kind of interesting. Anyway, so that's what this is it's still Entropy, which is the same kind of twisted hand-dyed yarn, but it's in a different base, so it's milk and honey. And honestly, I don't remember what colorway this was, but I got it in the box. It's just so pretty. Like, I love hand spun yarn. Why isn't it focusing? So anyway, so I'm going to start an entrelac scarf with this. So I did wind that, and I have the needles, and it's all in a project bag ready to go. And once I kind of get going on this, I think this can be an easy take-along project. Some of the other projects I think I will work on, I had mentioned, I think in the first episode, the Miss Grace shawl by Skano. This was one of my, I think for 2016, it was on like my knitting resolution list to make one. And I did make one and showed it to friends and family and stuff on Facebook, and everyone loved it and wanted one. So I had sold one to my aunt, and then someone, my mother-in-law wanted one, so I gave it to her for Christmas last year. And then another friend wanted to buy one for someone that he knew, so I kind of custom made one for him. It's a pattern that takes a little while because it is very large, but it's gorgeous. And so when the kits went on sale last Black Friday, I bought a bunch. So it was good to get them at a sale price so that I can sell these at my craft fair for not as expensive as it normally would if I had bought the kit for regular price. So anyway, so I need to, because they take a while, I don't want to keep waiting to make some and have it be October and have none made, because that would be a little stressful. So I do want to at least cast on one of those. And then another kind of go-to that Helen in my knitting group actually started and kind of reminded me of is, I forget the name of the sort of modification of the pattern on Ravelry. I want to say it's Jared Flood maybe did Noro Stripe Scarf. I think that might be the name of it. I'll put it down below. But anyway, a lot of people use that pattern with Knit Picks Chroma worsted and will alternate colors. So stripe it either with a variegated and a solid or two variegateds. So I've done that before. I'll put a couple pictures up. And that's usually a pretty kind of mindless knit that doesn't take too long. I mean, it's knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. So it's, not everybody loves sort of moving the yarn all the time throughout a whole project, but it's not too bad once you kind of get used to it. And it's a really kind of pretty result at the end. So anyway, those are kind of 3 projects that I really need to kind of at least get a couple going, so I don't feel like I have nothing for the craft fair coming up in the fall. Okay, so what I got over these past couple weeks. So first talking about Burke Farms, which I just mentioned. So I follow them on Facebook. So they sell their mill ends. So it's sort of like all of like the leftover pieces of yarn that maybe were, too much for the skein. If they're making 100 grand schemes, maybe they only had 20 grams left of one. And so they kind of put a bunch of these small ends together and then will sell a big chunk of mill ends. So I bought one of these from her last year. And then she just posted on Facebook a bunch of other mill ends of different colorways and stuff, and was offering like a discount if you bought a couple. So I bought 2. So this one is, so normally it's 100 grams, 260 yards. This is sport weight, I think. And this one is 520 yards. And this is her Blue Face Luster. So this is very similar to the one that we got from Yarn Box a long time ago. So you can see how, so it's a huge skein, but you can see where there are different sections that are tied off. So if I were to unravel this, I would have probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 different skeins of yarn. And they try to still give you a bunch of colorways that would go together. And again, I have another skein of mill ends like this, so I think I might take this apart and mix and match with the other one I have and try to get as very similar colors as I can, because it does look like some of these are super bright and then some are more kind of in the green family, but I just love it. It's so fun. I think it's the close to, since I don't spin my own yarn and I see sort of finished products of people that do spin their own yarn, I feel like, okay, I maybe I spun this. This is my version of hand spun yarn. Anyway, then this one, so this is also her entropy, but this one is 100% merino wool. So I've only used the Blue Face Luster so far, but this is her merino wool base, and I love these colors. So it's much more kind of blues and browns. So yeah, so I'll definitely be doing entrelac with these, or like I said, maybe another boneyard shawl. Anyway, I jump at the chance to get Burke Farms whenever I can. Then, so Wolfiend, who had generously donated some prizes for the Game of Thrones knit along. She also did a mystery 3-month skein club for Game of Thrones. So this is her card. And I'll put all of her info below as usual. So spoiler alert, if people ordered it and haven't gotten it yet. So this month is her sort of Jon Snow inspired colorway. So she gave this cute little card with it, just kind of talking a little bit about the show, and her thoughts on it and what she thinks might be coming up this season. And this is the color. I really hope the lighting is good to show this. So pretty. And she also sent a stitch marker. I don't know if you can see that. Is it too shiny? Anyway, it says, "Night gathers and now my watch begins." It's such a pretty, oh God, it's so pretty. Like the purples, it's like the lavender and then the dark purples and black. Oh, I love it. It's so pretty. And this is on her 75-25 sock base. 75% merino, 25% nylon, 463 yards. So it's a little more of a light fingering. So pretty. I don't know what I'll do with it, but it's so pretty. I'm going to wait and see kind of what the next 2 months colorways are. I don't know, and then decide. I may put this into another Who Wears the Crown. I don't know, we'll see. Okay, and finally, so remember last episode I was super excited about winning that $100 store credit from Eat Sleep Knit. So of course I had to buy stuff. I was gonna just kind of keep it in my account and not spend it right away, but then because they're moving warehouses, they did I think 10% off sale. So I'm like, if I'm going to maximize my store credit, it will be now when they're having a sale, because they don't often have sales because they have so much other kind of fun extra stuff. They don't typically do sales. So anyway, so I took advantage. So I did end up buying Malabrigo Finito, which I think I said last time I wanted to do, to make the Melanie Berg Sunwalker shawl. So this is it. It's sort of a gray, taupey gray color. So it's the Paloma colorway. And again, this Finito is 50 grams, 200 yards, kettle dyed, pure superfine merino wool. And it's a heavier fingering weight, and it knits just super thick and soft. I love it. So I already have one skein of this colorway. So I bought 5. People's Projects used either 5 or 6. So I didn't really want to buy 6 when I have a 6th just in case. The dye lot might be a little bit different, but I'm not super worried about it. I don't think I'll alternate or anything. We'll just see how it goes. So this isn't something I'm going to make right away. Probably later on after I feel like I've built up some inventory for the craft fair, and it's something that I'm going to want to wear. So I'll wait kind of as it gets closer to fall so that I can actually wear it as soon as I'm done with it. But I'm really excited about it. This is some of my favorite yarn. So then also, because they were having a sale, this was something else that was in my just kind of wish list on Eat Sleep Knit for a while. This is Blue Moon Fiber Arts, and this is their Silky Victoria base, which I think it's new to Eat Sleep Knit. I don't know if it's a new base entirely for Blue Moon Fiber Arts, but so it's 85% Polworth wool and 15% silk. And their skeins, most of their yarn are super huge skeins. This one is 695 yards. I think it's sport weight. It might be fingering, but I think it's sport. I could be wrong. And this colorway is Tempest. Yeah. I didn't know if the light would show this well, but yeah, it's actually better back here. It's really pretty. I like it a lot. Again, no idea what it will be, but probably just one big solid color project. Oh, back to the Finito for a minute. So Malabrigo posted, I'll put a picture of the Instagram post. They just sort of regrammed or shared someone's project made out of Malabrigo Finito. And I shouldn't even be talking about it because I don't know the name of the pattern. I think it's a Stephen West pattern, almost positive about that. But it's gorgeous, and the person made it in Finito, so that's definitely going in my queue to probably make with Finito as well. It's just really pretty. Anyway, just another aside. I think that's all I have to talk about. I didn't really have a lot that I was working on, not too much that I got. I don't know. I just wanted to, make sure to do a little podcast to celebrate the 10th episode and the 4th, and just let you guys know about next week, where I will pull from the finished objects thread of the Game of Thrones knit along next Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern. So get those projects in and posted. If you do more than one, just one post per finished object. All of the info is in the Not Your Average Knits Ravelry group. I think that's it for me, guys. Thank you so much. It's been great chatting with you. I really do wish that I should think about doing more like live Instagram stories and things like that, because it would be really fun to be able to sort of interact with you. So maybe I'll think about doing that in the future sometime, just to kind of be able to chit chat with everyone a little bit more. It's been great getting to know some of you through the Ravelry group or on Instagram. So yeah. And again, my final showing of my Who Wears the Crown shawl. Love it. I will let you know when it comes out. It will be next week sometime. Like I said, I'm thinking Friday. I will probably have a coupon code too. So look out for that. And that's it. All right. Happy 4th, everyone. Until next time. Keep on knitting, and we'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.